Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Town Council of the Town of Clarkdale for Tuesday, January 27th, 2026 at 3 p.m. In the Clark Memorial Clubhouse. Just to note real quickly, the TVs are not working, but we are recording the meeting over here with our town clerk. Roll call. Vice Mayor Hunsetter. Here. Councilmember Babbitt Pierce.
Present.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Here.
Councilmember Jones.
Present.
And please note that Mayor Prudhomme Bauer is here. We do have a quorum. Item 3 is public comment. The Town Council invites the public to provide comments at this time. Members of the Town Council may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling a matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. If you're interested in making a comment on a specific item, I ask you to hold those comments until that item comes up on the agenda. Each speaker, if you're going to speak, are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes unless a different amount of time is noted on the agenda or is determined by the presiding officer or a majority vote of the Town Council. So at this moment, is anybody interested in giving public comment? If so, please come up to the microphone. I see nobody jumping up. Is there anybody online? Thank you, Charity. Okay, let's move on to reports in your packet. The packet online are reports from our town departments and other agencies like our building permit report, grants report, human resources report, magistrate court report, parks and recreation report, police department report, Verde Valley Humane Society report, water and wastewater report, and of course our finance report. Are there any comments on any of the reports that were in our packet? None? It looks like our revenue picture is kind of holding pretty solid, even though we might have some concerns down the road, it's still holding solid. So
currently we're meeting most of our revenue projections, so we're on course to meet budget right now.
okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on to item 5, which is consent agenda. We have 2 items on consent this afternoon. One is the approval of the minutes of the council from January 13th, 2026. And item B is the congressionally directed spending police department window and door replacement. So that's the award. That was the congressionally directed award that we got. Is that correct?
That's correct. And this item, we're bringing forward the actual quote for what the work is going to cost, and also making a suggestion of where that funding, our part of that funding will need to come from, the local match and the overage because of the rising cost. I will tell you on that item that we did do a SHPO voluntary consultation this morning on several projects, but that was one of them. And we will need to do a 106 review on that project because of the federal funds, but we're not anticipating any issues. And I think it'll be a pretty smooth process.
Okay, thank you very much. Is any of these items need to be pulled for discussion by council? If not, I'll take a motion on the consent items.
I move that we approve consent agenda items A and B.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Councilmember Babbitt Pierce to approve the consent agenda items A and B as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, let's get to new business. 6A, revision to the financial operating guide, or what we call FOG. This is discuss, consider, and act upon uh, revisions to Section 4, cash management and cash receipts policy in the financial operating guide. And Brittany Earls, welcome, our finance
Oh, thanks.
director.
I'm happy to be here in person this time. Excuse my voice, I'm still getting over the cough. Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. Like that Madam Mayor said, we're here to discuss, consider, and act upon minor revisions to the financial operating guide where it relates to cash drawer balances. We were finding that departments needed to exchange cash, sometimes interrupting transactions to come down and get change. So we piloted these proposed cash drawer balances, and it's been working great. So staff is recommending that council approve these minor revisions as presented.
Is there any questions or comments? This is just increasing the level in two categories in that, correct?
Correct. Our high volume area is with utilities, and they only were keeping about, I believe it was $150. And so we up that to $250 per drawer. It allows them to keep their own change. It also saves us bank fees because they're able to retain change rather than us having to go and purchase change. And then our police department was only keeping $50, and that was raised to $100. And so that's been working for them as well.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Brittany? This is an easy one.
It's so minor. I know, but it's a big help. It really is.
Yeah, I know it is. If there's no questions, I'll take a motion on this one.
Madam Mayor, I move that the council approve the revision to Section 4 cash management, cash receipts policy in the financial operating guide FOG.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Jones and seconded by Councilmember O'Neill to approve the revisions to Section 4 cash management / cash receipts policy in the financial operations guide. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, we don't have a long agenda today, so this one might take us a little bit of time, and it is on legislative priorities for the 2026 legislative session. And so we're going to be discussing, considering and acting upon resolution setting the town council's legislative priorities for this year. So I'll turn it over to Town Manager Guthrie to lead off this discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. So as you know, each year we adopt a policy to give us some kind of guardrails for things that we could act upon on behalf of the council as we're monitoring legislative priorities and things that are happening in the legislature. So some of these that I'm going to go over with you were part of the League of Arizona Cities and Towns policies this year, but we also added a few that I thought were really specific to our town. So if it's okay, I'll go through at least just the main gist of each one. Okay. The first one is we recommend that any bills that could be a risk to us in terms of preserving local decision-making and protecting state shared revenues. Already we have seen 3 bills drop that are really potentially damaging, up to the tune of at least 1/5 of our general fund revenue would no longer be available to us. And so we have already started taking steps to educate our legislators about the potential harm. We did a PowerPoint that was then shared with the League of Arizona Cities and Towns and GAMA, the Greater Arizona Mayors Association. So we're really trying to get everybody to understand the fiscal impact of some of these, but that is the type of activity that would be covered under this header. The second one is housing and community stability, excuse me. And basically it's, giving us the opportunity to do really targeted activities that help the situation in our town, because our situation isn't necessarily the same as everybody else's. So we want to really keep that at the local level and make it so that we can come up with solutions. And as you all know, we have a meeting coming up where we're completing and adopting our housing plan that has a lot of recommendations that are specific to us. So that topic, and as you know, last year there were, in the last legislative session, there were actions taken that really took away a lot in terms of transparency for our residents, you know, where we could no longer have public hearings on a myriad of planning and zoning activities. And, you know, we definitely were not in favor of that. We like that transparency. We like the public involvement. So it's that type of item that we would be really monitoring. The second is economic development and budget flexibility. The two things that are really being looked at with this one are there are tools that are available in other states that are not available in Arizona. One of them is tax increment financing. And I will tell you personally, I've done probably 4 tax increment reinvestment zones in my career with great results. So I was shocked when I moved here and that wasn't available to us. But they are bringing that forward as a recommendation. We'd like to support that. And then the second is budget flexibility. You all have heard me complain about that, about not being able to amend our budgets mid-year. Say we get a big grant or a big donation or some major piece of equipment fails that we don't have money in our budget. We can't do anything to amend our budget and pull money out of reserves. So this bill that they're putting forward, I believe, would allow us some of that flexibility for very specific situations. You wouldn't just be able to randomly do it, but when something like that occurs, we should have the flexibility to respond to it. The next item is good governance, which is basically just strengthening governance practices and support fair, consistent processes across Arizona municipalities. A lot of this has to do with elections, election conformity, candidate committee termination, and PSPRS processes. So pretty specific. Public safety and community protection. This is really that is a core function. And we know that, and our community survey shows that this is really something very important to our residents. So we want to prioritize legislative actions that will enhance safety, privacy, and security for victims. You know, that's always a struggle when people want to do an open records request and have access to everything. You know, we have to remember there are victims and witnesses on these cases, and how do we protect those interests? So we want to make sure we're watching state law that will allow us to do that. Oppose unfunded mandates. I mean, we've been dealing with a few of these huge ones for a few years. This is not a state level one, but it's a good example of an unfunded mandate, the lead and copper rule, you know, where something is passed, but then it's put on us to implement it. And I will tell you, I think if I had to estimate, we've spent at least $250,000 on that new law, and there's still a lot more to come on that law. So, you know, of course, public safety is the most important thing, but we also want to avoid, you know, things that come out that we have to pay for, but there's no revenue stream identified for it. And our other revenue streams are being targeted. So protect local authority. I can't say that one enough, and in a lot of different ways. Basically, you know, we believe that the town code empowers Clarkdale residents to determine the structure and authority of our local government. And staff recommends the town work to protect the ability of the mayor and council to set policy at the local level and oppose legislation that preempts local authority. I think the example of the public hearings for community development projects, I think that's a great example of, you know, some communities that might be fine, but other communities, they really want that level of involvement. So the last one is to maintain and support infrastructure and municipal services. We recommend the town oppose legislative efforts to deprive or limit its residents of reliable and necessary infrastructure, transportation systems, water, sewer, and electric systems, or other municipal services, and to support increasing grant funding for these important projects. I mean, I think most important for us is grant funding for water and sewer projects. With all of the changes that are coming down about water quality and wastewater quality, keeping our infrastructure to be able to meet those needs is more and more and more expensive. And without some, assistance to match the new regulations, it's going to be difficult to implement all of those. So we just really want to encourage our legislators to make funding available through WIFA and other sources. So with that, these are very broad categories. And the way we're monitoring is we attend several legislative update meetings each week. So every Monday, the mayor and I attend a briefing from the league on bills that are going to committee. DK and Scott are attending one that's focused on housing alone. So that's really going to be helpful because it's what are they even talking about changing processes. Brittany is attending, and I on and off attend the finance call, which is really important because they dig deep into the fiscal impact of a lot of legislation that's pending. And then finally, on Fridays, I attend the InterGov meeting, which is the intergovernmental relations people from cities across the state get together and discuss these bills and determine, what is our position? Do we support these bills or do we not? As you know, I'm a registered lobbyist. We've now added additional staff to be registered lobbyists because we just want to not be in the gray area at all. So Lou and DK and Scott are all now registered lobbyists, so they can go and testify, because that's the hard part is when a bill is coming up, it's often last minute that it's assigned to a committee. And we want to get people down there to testify, and we want to make sure that we never cross any lines. So we went ahead and registered them all as lobbyists so that they can go down as subject matter experts and testify if I'm not available to do so, or we may all go. And then, as you know, all of you have also been registered so that any activities where you're contacting legislators to educate them about what's harming our community, that you're completely, covered on that as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions that I can, but I know these are broad, and, I think I'm doing a pretty good job of trying to keep you guys updated on the ones that I'm really concerned about. And will continue to do so throughout the session.
Go ahead, Marnie.
Thank you. Under the infrastructure, would broadband fall in there?
Yes.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions, comments? Lisa, Laura?
My comment is I like how much of this connects to our own goals. It connects to our own strategic plan. These are not, sort of one-offs around, and that it just is another layer to the work that we do to keep us focused and keep us moving together as a council, as a staff, as a community, so we all kind of know the direction that we're moving in. So I appreciate that this will also probably help inform our strategic planning, which is coming up
Yes,
next
ma'am.
week. So
Lisa?
I would like to congratulate our town manager in that her PowerPoint presentation, her summation was used by it was requested by several other cities as an example or an ideal of what the argument should look like. So even though Clarkdale's unique, there are a lot of small towns in Arizona in the same boat. So thank you.
Thank you. And I just do want to comment that Brittany actually put the PowerPoint together.
Thank you, Brittany.
Credits.
Thank you. It was just my experience with all of that yesterday on the ledge call, the statewide ledge call it's not been on the agenda yet for our ledge calls because it hasn't been put in committee yet. It's still hanging out there, but the food taxes haven't either. So I typed a note into the chat about this, and the executive director, Renee Julian, read it out, and I gave him time to give some of the backstory. It is a bill we've seen prior, where the one that we are talking about, which is TPT sourcing for remote retail sales, where it would be change it from ship to ship from, which means that pot of revenue would be gone from us. And it has been introduced several times in the legislature. But if we don't get on top of it, it could slip through and then we're in real big trouble. But in doing that, and then Susan spoke and talked about the wonderful graph, it was amazing. It was like 2 seconds later, we had chats in the chat, we want this, we want this, we want this. And that's when the league said they would send it out on our behalf. And yesterday afternoon, I sent it out on behalf of Gamma. So I don't care if they get it 2 or 3 times, because it's in a form they can duplicate for their numbers to see the real impact. And I think that's what we're trying to do, is get our municipalities, at least our small ones, to look at the impact of what this is going to be, because we have not only the potential of losing a TPT revenue source, food tax, and the conformity with the federal tax code that was changed last summer. All of that, we know what that impact potentially could be on us, on top of the loss of rental tax and the flat tax, which is still somewhat of a unknown as the effect. We know it's not good, but it is caused some reduction in those dollars too. So in my, so the more we can educate all of our communities to speak out, to talk to their legislators and tell them what this effect in real dollars are. In my note to our legislators, I said the effect is a loss of 20, particularly 1/5 of our funding is reduction in public safety, reduction in being able to take care of our roads, reduction in how we maintain our parks and recreation areas, and just the general reduction in general services for our town. I've heard back from, of course, Selena Bliss, who is very responsive, and she is trying to get a meeting together with for us with the other legislators in our district to talk about this. But it was just really quite amazing, because usually ledge calls are pretty boring, nobody asks a lot of questions, or they were covering things like, what were they covering
It
yesterday?
was shopping cart issues and license plate readers was the big topics of conversation. And so we really did make an effort to, and it is their practice to not bring up bills till they get assigned to committee. But I think we think on these bills that are hyper dangerous to us. I mean, literally, the one bill that the mayor brought up about where sales tax is charged, that's $500,000 we get in that item, and ours would be to zero because we have no distribution centers here. So it's really detrimental. So we don't feel like we can sit around on our hands and wait for it to get in committee. We feel like we need to hit it hard and hit it now. And it is really difficult. And that's why we wanted to share with the other cities is most of us do not have a dedicated intergovernmental relations person. We can't afford to do that, and small towns just don't. And so for us, we split those duties up. And that's why I've asked other staff members to, really hone in on certain subject matter that I just don't have the capacity to dig deep on those. And they're doing a great job keeping us posted on, okay, what's coming up in your meetings? What bills are you seeing? Look at all the bills. And I think it's really going to help us in the long run. And I'm very thankful to the staff who agreed to take on those extra duties to help out.
We don't even know what housing bills
No.
are really coming forward. They haven't really been assigned out to committee. I'm sure DK and Scott are having a good time with that one, because we want to know. It might be similar bills that we saw last year, or there might be some different items come to the table. We don't know for sure. Yeah. So that I really appreciate that staff is putting that a part of their workload too. I appreciate that very much, okay? Any other comments or thoughts on this before we take a motion?
I just want to thank the town manager and staff for taking such an active role in this and leading by example for all the other communities in the area.
If there's no other questions or comments, I just need a motion on this one.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution 1750, providing direction to the mayor and town manager as it relates to support or opposition of legislative actions.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Babbitt Pierce and seconded by Vice Mayor Hunsetter to approve Resolution 1750, setting the town council's legislative priorities for 2026 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the work on this. Okay, we're to item 7, which is future agenda items. Charity has put together our list. We have upcoming on the 10th, the board of will be meeting as the Board of Adjustments. And then we have our after that we'll have our regular meeting. And please note the special meeting, which is on CDBG. It's for CDBG funds, not CDBA. Thank you, Charity. That's the mandatory public meeting we need to have for discussion on possible use for CDBG funds. And then, of course, our second meeting on February 24th. Are there any additions that we need to add to any agenda coming up?
Just remember, we do have the work session on February 25th with retail
yeah.
strategies too.
Right, that just came in today. Excuse me on that one. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, the 25th we'll have a special meeting, a work session with retail strategies, our consultants.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else on the agenda? Okay, hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There's a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and second by Council Member O'Neill to adjourn at 3:30 p.m. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, all of you, for being here today. Okay.